What is up, my dudes? This is Trent with the Fantasy Football Dudes podcast. Today's episode, I have my early Week 9 waiver wire ads. Sunday Night Football just ended, so the only game that hasn't been played is Monday Night Football. But all my waiver wire ads are below 55% rostered on Sleeper, and Sleeper is the absolute best place for fantasy football. They got the dynamic payouts where you can 100x your money, 100 times your money. Just enter promo code DUDES100. They'll match you up to $100. So, guys, teams on bye in Week 9. We have the 49ers and the Steelers, and I will have more waiver wire ads on X, or you can sign up for them at www.thefantasyfootballdudes.com. I'll get you the whole waiver list right to your mailbox. It'll be there first thing Tuesday morning, so go check that out if you want a little bit more. I got my early waiver wire ads right now, and yeah, unfortunately, guys, not every Sunday can be National Tight Ends Day. And as annoying as it was hearing National Tight Ends Day, I just wanted to, show you something I did here on X at tffdudes. It was tight ends if every Sunday were National Tight Ends Day. It has a picture of the judgmental Voltaire. Not a huge Twilight guy myself, but I do love this meme. I use it all the time. Thought it was appropriate because tight ends just absolutely balled out today. You had George Kittle on Sunday Night Football. You had Kyle Pitts and K. Dotton in the same game, just going absolutely bananas. Great day for National Tight Ends Day. Maybe they should do this twice a year. It finally, for the first time, looked like this was that deep tight end class that we were told about, all off, maybe not told about, just what we thought about all off season, right? So, guys, all my waiver wire notes, the timestamps are in the show notes, so you go check there, jump around, go to quarterbacks, running backs, tight ends, all that good stuff. Like I said, everyone is below 55% rostered on Sleeper. So if there's a guy that's not on here and you're like, hey, you missed that guy, well, there's other, podcast stuff like that like to go up to 70%, 65%. This is below 55%. And I've had some people say, hey, what about 40? Just not a lot of guys at 40%, but a lot of these guys are even under 50%. Let's dive right into the quarterbacks, guys. Quarterbacks, QB waiver wire ads. Number 1, guys, and he was number 2 in my fantasy league. 35% rostered. I have Bo Nix, guys. Bo Nix went crazy today. QB2 in my fantasy league with 31.7 fantasy points. He completed 28 of 37 passes for 284 yards, 3 touchdowns in the Broncos, 28-14 whooping on the Panthers. I said this in our preview show. I said, hey, I really like Bo Nix's matchup. I think you can play him because rushing upside. And I thought it was a good place for a young quarterback to get ready, to get going. So I really like this Bo Nix matchup. I started him in a league. I got Seth all upset with me because Bo Nix did so good. I said, hey, you shouldn't be surprised. I told you this was going to happen. Being totally honest, I did not think he would be QB2. There is another game still left to play. Quarterbacks are tough. We got 2 teams on bye. We got the 49ers and the Steelers on bye. So, and if you have Jordan Love, that's a guy you probably need to replace because I don't know when he's coming back. Sunday night, like I said. Next QB I have is Aaron Rodgers. He's playing against the Houston Texans. Houston Texans defense is giving 18.3 fantasy points per game to the quarterback. I know Aaron Rodgers hasn't been a ton of fun this year, but Aaron Rodgers did throw 2 TD passes in their loss to the Patriots today. He also finished today with 17 fantasy points, went 17 for 28, 223 yards. Maybe he can keep getting Devontae involved, get Garrett Wilson involved, see what we can do. Don't love that play. Probably like this next one a little bit more. I have Matt Stafford, who is 33% rostered, going to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. He's got all his weapons back, guys. 2 weeks ago against the Raiders, he had 3 fantasy points. Versus Minnesota on Thursday Night Football, he had 26.7 fantasy points. When he has all his weapons on offense, he can really, fire it up. And he made use of all of them. Like even Demarcus Robinson had, did he have 2 touchdown catches in that game? Yeah, Demarcus Robinson had 2 touchdown catches. Would be nice if he gave those maybe to Puka or Matt Stafford, guys that were actually started. That'd be great. But I got Matt Stafford at Seattle with Puka, with Cooper Kupp. We can play Matt Stafford again. And other guys, honorable mentions for quarterbacks, I have Drake May, but the Titans are pretty tough against the pass. I don't love that matchup. And then Jameis Winston versus the LA Chargers. I love Jameis. I said, NFL is always better when Jameis is playing. Jameis looked great. They upset the Baltimore Ravens. That matchup was wonderful. I loved the matchup. Jameis looked good. The motivational speeches. And what was it Jameis said today? His pregame speech alone. He's, told the guys, he said, hey, go out there, represent the names that are on your helmet. Well, we ain't got no decal. So Jameis, I love everything you say. I love all your celebrations, post-game, pre-game. This guy's must-watch TV. I'm glad he's back in the league, back in starting. And Browns finally scored over 20 points. I believe that was for the first time this season. Jameis looked good. He didn't have Amari Cooper. Still got guys involved. I got more Browns waiver wire ads later coming up. So running backs, let's hand this off to the running backs. Guys, running backs are, a little bleak this week because here's the deal with running backs. That's like the one position where I got to back up a little bit here. I'm sorry. I got my duds of the week here. I got my quarterback dud. I'm just going to go one. Caleb Williams. Commanders were giving up 16.4 fantasy points per game. He got 9 fantasy points in my league. Your league might have been a little bit different. I'm giving a dud at every single position. With all the stuff in this game, playing against the, number 2 quarterback drafted, I feel like there's a lot of hype in this game. I would have liked to seen him do some more fancy, goodness in this game. And he did rally him back at the end to get him involved, but it just wasn't quite enough, Caleb. You had the whole game to do that. This defense, they got holes in them. You can get stuff done. So I was disappointed there. Running backs. Pretty much all running backs are solid right now. Not a lot of good running back ads. My favorite running back ad right now, though, Isaac Guerendo, 49ers. I know the 49ers are on bye. And I know they said Christian McCaffrey might come back after the bye week. They also said Christian McCaffrey might not miss any time. And now we got Jordan Mason, who they keep telling us is okay, but he keeps getting hurt. So I think Isaac Guerendo needs to be added. And even if Jordan Mason plays, I think we need to start this guy up because we've seen what Mason's done the last 2 games. That's my favorite running back ad on the week, even though he is on bye. Then I have Jaleel McLaughlin, who's 19% rostered on Sleeper. For whatever reason, he was just a little bit more efficient today in today's game. Panthers had an absolutely smash spot for Javonte Williams, and Jaleel McLaughlin ran for 47 yards on 8 carries, and he caught his lone target for 9 yards and a touchdown. Javonte led the backfield in carries, but McLaughlin was more efficient despite seeing 9 fewer carries. This is really only a deep play in deep leagues. Those are my 2 favorite running back ads. Then, you got your handcuffs, Trey Benson, Kamani Vidal, Sean Tucker, Bucky Irving was a little bit banged up. He played today. So just, stuff happens with running backs. I think Sean Tucker needs to be added. And I like Jaylen Warren. Looked good last time we saw him. Like I said, this is Sunday night, not Monday. So I think Warren is getting more healthy. I think he needs to be rostered. I'm not ready to play him yet. Then I got my running back duds. Jordan Mason. And you tell us you're fine. You go out there and just lay a total stinker. You're hurt. 49ers, start telling us the truth with all this stuff. I don't know what the deal is with these 49 running backs. And really just anyone named Jordan absolutely crushed your fantasy football week. Okay. Whether it was Jordan Love, who looked like he got an injury that maybe I might get from like one of my buddies giving me a corn dog, or Jordan Mason, or Jordan Addison, which was an early, just absolutely brutal crushing on Thursday Night Football. So those are the 3 Jordans, the 3 J's. Any of those guys really messed up your fantasy team. And I had Jordan Addison and Jordan Love. So that was great. Absolutely wonderful. Wish I could have had Jordan Mason for the whole trifecta. That would have been great. All right. Throw this over to wide receivers. And you know the old saying, do as I say, not as I do. That was me this week, guys. Absolutely me. And I hate it. But wide receiver Cedric Tillman, my sleeper of the week. I played Jordan Addison over him. Very unfortunate. Cedric Tillman went off today versus the Baltimore Ravens. And what we got here on Tillman, back-to-back games with double-digit points. He had 14 fantasy points in week 7. He had 25 fantasy points, half-point PPR in week 8 versus the Ravens. He had 9 targets for 7 catches, 99 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tillman benefited from a combination of departure of Amari Cooper and Jameis Winston. I think that's a fair, both of them helped a lot. This guy needs to be added. Don't love the matchup versus the Chargers, but Jameis is going to be throwing the ball the whole entire time. I think we can play Cedric Tillman, Chris Olave. We can't put Chris Olave and Cedric Tillman in the same vein, of course, but he did have success versus the Chargers today. And if Jameis just keeps throwing it, Jameis is going to throw picks, like we all know, but he's going to keep trying to thread the needle as well. I think we got to play Cedric Tillman, was really good in college. And I'm also going to throw it over to his teammate, Elijah Moore, who had 12 targets, 8 catches, 85 yards. This was a guy that had a lot of hype out of college. Maybe Elijah Moore, only 7% rostered. I've always been an Elijah Moore guy, I think, with Jameis Winston there. And maybe both of these guys are just matchup dependent a little bit. Like I said on our preview show, the Ravens were an absolutely great spot for wide receivers, and Elijah Moore was the number 2 guy on that team. It wasn't Jerry Jeudy like everyone thought. Jerry Jeudy had 10 fantasy points also. So all 3 of Jameis Winston's wide receivers had double-digit fantasy points. Jerry Jeudy's only 62% rostered also, so maybe you want to add him as well. And then here's my flyer for the week. At the wide receiver position, I have John Metchie. Been a John Metchie fan for a while. I'm a fan of all these guys. I don't know what it is. Maybe that's the problem with fantasy football. When you get in dynasty leagues, you start liking guys even more. And then, whatever. John Metchie, next man up. Stephon Diggs. What's wrong with Stephon Diggs? He left the field with a non-contact knee injury. Coach D'Amico Ryan said after the game, wide receivers injuries still being evaluated. So by the time you hear this, maybe you'll know a little bit more. Stephon Diggs is wide receiver number 9 on the season in my fantasy football league. Texans take on the Jets this week. John Metchie had 4 fantasy points, but these targets got to go somewhere. You're already down Nico Collins. You're already down Stephon Diggs. It's either John Metchie or Robert Woods. Maybe it's Xavier Hutchinson. Maybe it's Steven Sims. But Xavier Hutchinson, Steven Sims, both of those guys are also available in your league. Sims didn't play in week 8, so I don't think it was him. And then Xavier Hutchinson, how did he do? He had 2 fantasy points. They drafted Metchie. They kept him for a year when he had cancer. Metchie was really good in college out of Alabama. He's a second-year guy. I like the flyer on Metchie. Maybe the flyer isn't this week versus the Jets with Metchie, but in 2 weeks, Texans are playing, the Detroit Lions, who you can throw the ball in the Detroit Lions. Look what Calvin Ridley did today, So, and Calvin Ridley, a guy that no one played in their fantasy lineups, it seemed like. I think he was only 27% started on sleepers. So all you guys that have Calvin Ridley, you finally get that good game, and he's on your bench. Nothing worse than that at all. Here's a nice little tweet I got sent to me today from Munder Difflin FF. Sounds like an office guy. Sounds like a guy that'd probably like the pod. So Scott Rainier said, looked up Nick Westbrook-Akeen in the fantasy football dictionary. It was just a picture of a vulture. Yeah. Nick Westbrook-Akeen has 3 straight games with TD catches. And basically, he's finished no higher than like 8 fantasy points. So he's just like a 1-catch TD a game guy. Maybe that's something you want to reach out for on your waivers if you're in a super deep league. Mason Rudolph doesn't make me excited. Don't know if Will Levis makes me excited either, though. That's the problem. All right. Tight end waiver wire ads, guys. Here we go. There's guys on here that should not be available. Hunter Henry, 43% rostered on Sleeper. I know he didn't have a great game today. It wasn't his best, but before today's game, tight end 7 on the year. Heading into week 8, they are playing the Tennessee Titans. Going into week 9, they're playing the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans are the absolute worst matchup for tight ends. But with Drake May and how good that Hunter Henry has been, I don't know how long Drake May is going to be out. He's another guy that, probably on your waiver wire you need to snag. Not sure with the whole concussion news, what's wrong with him, how long he'll be out, when he'll be back. Tennessee Titans are one of the worst matchups, if not the worst. They're 31 or 31st or 32nd against the tight end, but tight end 7 on your waiver wire, guys. This guy needs to be added. Pick him up. They probably don't have anyone better. I know it was National Tight End Day today, but Hunter Henry's been really good. He just didn't have a good one today. All right, deep flyer here. Deep flyer. Flyer as in a bird also, too. I got Noah Fant. Seattle Seahawks tight end, 25% rostered, going to LA to take on the Rams. Rams are the best matchup for tight ends in fantasy football. Noah Fant hasn't had like a stellar season, hasn't had a huge breakout game, but I like the matchup. Deep league, you need a flyer, need a dart throw. Noah Fant versus the best tight end matchup, best tight end defense, go Noah Fant. And then 21% roster, I have Taysom Hill taking on the Panthers this week. Kamara's wrist is hurt. The quarterback play hasn't been very good. Taysom Hill is a quarterback that you can play in your tight end position. He might throw a touchdown pass. He got some handoffs today. Taysom Hill should not be available in any leagues. He probably has 1 to 2 blow-up games a year. Panthers are not good. You want to talk about ugly streams. Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener, whoever the Saints quarterback is this week, playing against the Panthers. We want to keep picking on this Panthers defense. Everyone, people didn't like when I said Bo Nix. If you are in an absolute pickle at the quarterback position, super deep league, super flex league, Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener. Okay, don't play the guy who's not starting. Once we find out who the guy is who's starting, they might get you double-digit fantasy points. But this is it's a good matchup. Okay, and I just realized I forgot some duds here. So wide receiver duds, DJ Moore, Jordan Addison, Drake London. Tight end dud on National Tight End Day. You should be ashamed of yourself. Maybe it's more your quarterback play. Cole Kmet. So there we go. That does it, guys. Let me know what you think in the notes, guys. Do you like it when I do all the duds at once? Do you like it when I space them out, even though I kind of forgot about them? Check us out on Thursday, guys. We have our Week 9 preview. I will have Jordan and Phil and Seth on that pod. And remember to give us the sub on YouTube. Really helps us out, guys. Remember, don't be rude. Share the dudes. Help us out. Help your buddies out. We'll have a good time. Maybe get some inside jokes. I don't know where I'm going with this, guys. I'll see you on Thursday. We'll see you next time. And as always, take care.
This has been another episode of the Fantasy Football Dudes podcast. Remember to rate, review, and follow. For more information, go to www.thefantasyfootballdudes.com. And remember, we are sorry for absolutely nothing.